Cai Qi once said at a cadre meeting in Beijing, "These are exactly the problems that the responsibility system is meant to solve. Once it reaches the grassroots level, once it hits the critical point, it becomes real combat with real weapons. It is about seeing bayonets drawn and blood spilled." If one were to ask, in today's Chinese Communist Party political arena, who is the second most powerful figure beneath Xi Jinping, the answer might not be Premier Li Qiang, but rather Cai Qi, who oversees both the Central Secretariat and the General Office of the Central Committee, two of the most critical core organs of the party. It can be said that Cai Qi is, in effect, the CCP's Secretary General as well as its de facto Deputy General Secretary. In Donald Trump's words, he is China's Vice President. What is truly astonishing is that as late as 2014, Cai Qi was still a marginal vice ministerial level official, yet within the following 3 years, he was promoted twice in succession, rising to become the powerful party secretary of Beijing and a member of the CCP Politburo. After completing 5 years as Beijing party secretary, he even surpassed Chen Minor and Huang Kunming, figures who had long led him within the Zhejiang New Army faction and became one of Xi Jinping's most important right-hand men. So the question is, within those 5 years, what exactly happened to Cai Qi that allowed him to overtake others on the curve and pull ahead? Today, we are going to tell the story of Cai Qi. During his tenure in Zhejiang, Cai Qi was once the highest-ranking internet celebrity official on Weibo. At a Zhejiang Provincial Organization Department meeting in 2011, Cai Qi publicly announced for the first time that he had opened a personal Weibo account. By March 2014, his Tencent Weibo followers had exceeded 10 million. In November 2013, Cai Qi again took the lead by announcing his departure from office directly on Weibo, something without precedent in previous major personnel changes. In September 2011, the mother of a grassroots civil servant posted on Weibo complaining that her son, who worked at the tax bureau, was forbidden from drinking alcohol, yet was frequently forced to accompany his superiors to drink until drunk. The very next day, Cai Qi reposted the message and replied, "Tell me which unit of the national tax system your son works in. From now on, he won't have to drink anymore." This Weibo post instantly became a trending topic. In July 2012, Cai Qi, then serving as a member of the Zhejiang Provincial Party Standing Committee and head of the organization department, visited Taiwan. He went to see his second uncle, whom he had not met for 14 years, paid visits to many prominent Taiwanese political figures, and engaged in direct conversations with many ordinary Taiwanese citizens. This left many people on the other side of the strait with an impression of him as approachable and easygoing. Before 2016, in the early years, after Xi Jinping ascended to the top position, he too projected a highly people-friendly image. He once travelled incognito, taking a taxi with only one aide to conduct undercover inspections of public sentiment, and even wrote the words "smooth sailing" for the taxi driver. Accompanied by Ding Shuxiang, he once walked into Qingfeng's steamed bun shop, queued up with ordinary citizens to order food, paid for his meal himself without clearing the venue or imposing traffic controls. He once allowed his cartoon image to appear in online songs and was affectionately referred to as Uncle Xi and Auntie Peng. Before 2016, Premier Li Keqiang still held considerable power. Xi Jinping even attempted to jointly launch a new round of reform with him, rolling out a comprehensive reform package at the third plenary session of the 18th Central Committee. At that time, people widely believed that after the anti-corruption storm, the CCP would usher in a brand new era of reform. However, after 2016, all of this changed. That year, Hong Kong entered the era of post-universal suffrage resistance. Xinjiang entered the period of Chen Quanguo's high-pressure governance. Taiwan also entered a phase of long-term rule by the Democratic Progressive Party. More importantly, national security quickly replaced reform and opening up as the central theme of the Chinese Communist Party. Struggle became a high-frequency term filling the headlines. The powerful General Secretary took back most of the authority previously held by the Premier. The once people-friendly Xi Jinping completely disappeared, revealing the grim face of a dictator and becoming the CCP's final arbiter. In March 2014, Cai Qi was transferred from Zhejiang to Beijing to serve as deputy director of the newly established Office of the Central National Security Commission. The following year, he became its executive deputy director at the full ministerial level, assisting Li Zhanshu, who concurrently served as director of the General Office of the Central Committee and reporting directly to Xi Jinping. As Xi Jinping placed increasing emphasis on national security, this department gradually became one of the most important core organs of the CCP, controlling the most secret national security, intelligence and decision-making information. It can be said that by staying close to Xi's side, Cai Qi most directly witnessed Xi Jinping's complete transformation and understood the majority of this former superior's inner psychological evolution. It was precisely within this broader environment that Cai Qi himself completed a transformation from an open-minded official into an iron-fisted one, from an observer of democracy into a defender of dictatorship. Beijing became his experimental ground. In 2016, after completing the seizure of power at the central level and becoming the core leader of a new generation of the CCP, Xi Jinping could hardly wait to begin the second phase of his action plan. In this phase, he aimed to subdue local officials across the country, conquer grassroots cadres ideologically at every level, and purge the diehards who refused to submit. Thus, Li Qiang was appointed governor of Jiangsu, Li Shi, governor of Liaoning, Ying Yong, mayor of Shanghai, and Ma Xingrui, governor of Guangdong. As for the most critical city, Beijing, Xi Jinping naturally intended to send his own trusted subordinate to occupy it. Before this, Beijing had long been controlled by other factions. Party secretary Guo Jinlong was a relative of Hu Jintao. Mayor Wang Anshun was a relative of Zheng Qinghong and was said to have connections with Zhou Yongkang as well. These two men belonged to the traditional bureaucratic type, hesitant in action, slow-moving, lacking real capacity, and unwilling to offend anyone. Their respect for Xi Jinping was merely superficial. It fell far short of absolute loyalty. At that time, Beijing was deeply mired in big city problems. Overpopulation, traffic congestion, air pollution, resource shortages. In particular, the severe smog that began in 2013 turned the entire CCP into an object of criticism and ridicule from all sectors of society. In September 2013, the State Council issued special regulations to combat air pollution. Wang Anshun, representing the Beijing municipal government, signed a responsibility pledge with the central authorities. Wang himself said this was essentially a life or death pledge because central leaders had stated clearly if air quality control targets were not achieved by 2017, his head would be removed. The words sounded impressive, but 3 years passed and Beijing's air quality saw little improvement. In the final 2 months of 2015 alone, Beijing experienced 8 smog episodes, 2 of which triggered the highest level red alert for heavy pollution. Public dissatisfaction was intense. In May 2016, Xi Jinping presided over a Politburo meeting to once again study and deploy plans for the construction of Beijing's sub-centre. This task had been proposed for 2 years already, yet Beijing showed little substantial progress. Before becoming mayor, Wang Anshun had never had any experience managing cities and had no real ideas about how to proceed. Regarding the repeatedly supervised task of relocating the municipal government, Mayor Wang could not even produce a basic timetable. Xi Jinping angrily remarked, "If you don't move, then we will move." If Wang Anshun had been allowed to continue as mayor and then promoted to party secretary of Beijing in 2017, Xi Jinping's grand vision might have completely collapsed. Even Beijing's hosting of the 2022 Winter Olympics would likely have failed. In September 2016, the G20 summit was held in Hangzhou. Hangzhou's urban landscape drew widespread praise from world leaders and greatly pleased Xi Jinping. Hangzhou became the ideal city in his mind. Among those involved in Hangzhou's urban construction, former party secretary Wang Guoping had long since retired. Only the former mayor of Hangzhou, Cai Qi, was still by Xi Jinping's side at that moment. Against this backdrop, at the end of October 2016, Cai Qi assumed the position of acting mayor of Beijing. In May of the following year, he took over as party secretary of Beijing, and in October, he was elected as a member of the Politburo. Within just 3 years, Cai Qi vaulted up 3 levels in succession and entered the core leadership directly, becoming one of the fastest rising CCP officials of that era. As for the former Beijing mayor Wang Anshun, Xi Jinping, clearly displeased with him, assigned him to the marginal State Council Development Research Centre. Later, Wang was further demoted to deputy director, and 2 consecutive rounds of disciplinary inspections were launched against him. Had Wang himself not been relatively clean, he likely would have been taken down long ago. Filled with gratitude toward Xi Jinping, the newly appointed Cai Qi was eager to launch bold initiatives to demonstrate his extraordinary execution ability and repay his master. However, the 3 major fires he ignited upon taking office all went badly wrong and nearly burned out. On the 18th of November 2017, a fire broke out in Daxing district, killing 19 people. While fully blocking information on the incident, Cai Qi convened meetings to deploy a citywide inspection and rectification campaign under the pretext of eliminating safety hazards. The government then dispatched special police and public security forces using brutal methods such as cutting off water and electricity, midnight raids, and indiscriminate smashing and kicking. Within just over a month, more than 100,000 migrant workers labelled as low-end population were expelled from Beijing. Many people were rendered homeless overnight, even though they had contributed years of blood and sweat to the city. At an internal meeting, Cai Qi spoke bluntly, "When it reaches the grassroots level, it has to be real combat with real weapons. It has to be bayonets drawn and blood spilled. It has to be hard, head-on confrontation." As mentioned at the very beginning of this video, these remarks were secretly recorded by someone at the meeting and uploaded online, triggering a massive public backlash. More than 5,300 scholars and artists jointly signed an open letter to multiple CCP departments condemning these barbaric actions that openly violated the Constitution and crudely interfered with residents' right to housing. Even many party-run media outlets published articles criticising Beijing's actions. Next, in order to satisfy Xi Jinping's obsession with the skyline, Cai Qi launched a campaign called Reveal the Skyline. He ordered party and government organs as well as state-owned enterprises to take the lead in dismantling illegal signboards. He then dispatched demolition teams to enforce the policy forcibly with the costs borne by property owners. This campaign-style enforcement once again provoked strong public skepticism. The sudden removal of signboards disrupted many people's daily lives. Even more absurdly, the campaign ran into a hard obstacle: the inscription that Jiang Zemin had personally written for the 301 hospital. Faced with overwhelming public pressure that he had not anticipated, Cai Qi was forced to issue a new order halting the removal of illegal advertising signs, allowing those already dismantled to be reinstalled. In order to accelerate smog reduction, Cai Qi launched the largest coal-to-gas conversion project in history. However, due to insufficient natural gas supply and incomplete pipeline construction, large areas of Beijing were left without heating, forcing countless residents to endure the freezing winter. That winter, Cai Qi's ancestors were surely greeted by millions of Beijing residents. A party secretary managing the city this poorly was truly unprecedented. Had an official from another faction caused such massive disasters under the emperor's very feet, Xi Jinping would likely have unleashed thunderous punishment long ago. But Cai Qi was his loyal enforcer, acting in accordance with his orders. So no matter how intense public opinion became, Secretary Cai emerged unscathed. That said, Cai Qi was not foolish. He quickly realized 2 things. First, Beijing was far more complex than Hangzhou, and Hangzhou's management model could not be mechanically copied. Second, Beijing's cadre corps had serious problems. An internal, highly sensitive speech had been secretly recorded and uploaded online. Privately, many Beijing officials were also openly criticising municipal party policies. Cai Qi's primary task thus became subduing Beijing's cadre ranks. If he could not reshape the city's officialdom, he would fail Xi Jinping's test. Although Cai Qi was the party secretary of Beijing, he did not yet have the authority to decide on appointments for vice-ministerial level officials, such as the head of the Municipal Organisation Department or the Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission. Therefore, he could only make arrangements at the level of executive deputies. He transferred Liu Zhengang from director of the Municipal Legal Affairs Office to executive deputy secretary of the Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission. He transferred Wang Jianzhong from party secretary of Beijing University of Civil Engineering and Architecture to Executive Deputy Minister of the Municipal Organisation Department. These 2 became his right and left-hand men. in controlling party affairs. Because his public reputation had suffered severe damage, Cai Qi specially transferred Yu Chun-sheng from Changping District to serve concurrently as Deputy Secretary General of the Municipal Party Committee and Deputy Minister of the Propaganda Department, assigning him exclusive responsibility for rebuilding Cai Qi's personal image and brand. Although Yu Chun-sheng came from the Communist Youth League faction, he was highly talented. Cai Qi also transferred Ma Langxia, Director of the Municipal Women's Federation, to become Director of the Municipal Audit Bureau, placing her in charge of auditing cadres across the entire city. Coming from marginal departments into the core of power, these newly appointed officials were naturally deeply grateful to him. Within just 1 year, Secretary Cai rotated more than half of the chief officials across more than a dozen districts and counties, truly experiencing a solid round of the game of power. Not only that, he replaced the heads of key municipal government departments one by one, including the Planning Commission, the Development and Reform Commission, the State-Owned Assets Supervision Commission, and the Finance Bureau. The most lucrative departments in Beijing were all brought firmly under his control. Relying solely on promotions was not enough. He also needed to intimidate the entire officialdom, one hand holding carrots, the other wielding the rod of punishment. On the 6th of November 2016, just 1 week after Cai Qi assumed the role of acting mayor of Beijing, the Central Inspection Group, No.11, launched a return inspection of Beijing. Xi Jinping's staunch loyalist Xu Lingyi served as the head of the inspection team. In November 2017, the Beijing Municipal Party Committee convened a citywide warning education conference for leading cadres and decided to reorganize the party committee of the Beijing Agricultural Products Central Wholesale Market Management Committee. A full reorganization of the party committee of a bureau-level unit was not only unprecedented in Beijing, but also extremely rare nationwide. This move sent a chill through Beijing's entire political establishment. These seasoned bureaucrats immediately realized that this new leader was ruthless and best not provoked. Before Cai Qi took office, Xi Jinping personally entrusted him with 3 major tasks: relocating Beijing's non-capital functions, controlling air pollution, and successfully hosting the Winter Olympics. These 3 tasks were also Xi Jinping's self-imposed KPIs, and among the matters he cared about most: handle what the leader values, and the leader will take care of you. This is the eternal truth of officialdom. Relocating Beijing's non-capital functions and advancing coordinated development of Beijing, Tianjin-Hebei constituted the bull's nose of all Beijing's work. So what exactly constitutes capital functions? As early as 2014, Xi Jinping had clearly defined Beijing's 4 roles: political centre, cultural centre, international exchange centre, and technological innovation centre. Anything outside these 4 was deemed a non-capital function. Under Cai Qi's push, a large number of traditional wholesale markets, including the well-known Dongpi and Dahongmen markets, were relocated to Hebei. To complete the No.1 flagship project of Beijing, the city subcentre Cai Qi mobilised the entire city, leading nearly 20,000 construction workers from 2 municipal state-owned enterprises, Beijing Urban Construction and Beijing Construction Engineering Group. Within 5 years, they completed more than 200 projects, truly achieving what came to be known as Cai Qi speed. Controlling smog directly affected the public's evaluation of governance performance and also affected the quality of life of the CCP's top leadership. After all, clean air is difficult to provide through special supply alone. Even though Zhongnanhai has one of the world's most advanced fresh air systems, leaders' family members still have to go outside. However, air quality control was extremely difficult. Previous administrations had worked on it for many years with little effect. Cai Qi said, "To fundamentally solve the smog problem requires a long-term process. I believe that as long as we persist tirelessly, Beijing's air quality will definitely improve day by day." To cooperate with Cai Qi, Xi Jinping sent environmental engineering expert Chen Jining to serve as his deputy. The two formed a partnership, one providing professional solutions, the other coordinating interests and implementation across all sides. They adopted coal to electric conversion, combining shutdowns, exits, and air quality control in parallel to optimize industrial structure. Vehicle, fuel, and road management were advanced simultaneously to control motor vehicle emissions and dust pollution. In the end, they won this extremely difficult battle for blue skies. It must be said that this was a well-fought battle. Beijing's residents were quite satisfied, and the gentlemen in Zhongnanhai were also very pleased. As for the Winter Olympics, it was tied directly to Xi Jinping's Olympic complex. Hu Jintao had hosted the Summer Olympics during his tenure, so Xi Jinping had to host the Winter Olympics, otherwise how could he become a great leader? As chairman of the Beijing Winter Olympics Organising Committee, Cai Qi had to coordinate the progress of infrastructure and venue construction, ensure that all projects were completed on schedule, and also oversee logistics support, external liaison, and propaganda promotion. Under the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and boycotts by multiple countries, he still had to ensure service standards for the Games, while also engaging in verbal sparring with hostile nations. Yet Cai Qi, the relentless workhorse, still completed this challenge, and the great leader's dignity was fully satisfied at the Winter Olympics. Beyond these special tasks, the party secretary of Beijing also had to take charge of economic development. The only city truly comparable to Beijing was Shanghai. At the time, Shanghai's party secretary was Cai Qi's old acquaintance Li Qiang. The two had known each other since their Zhejiang days. Cai Qi had long lagged behind Li Qiang in his career and had even served as Li Qiang's subordinate at one point. But by this stage, he had essentially caught up. Whether intentionally or not, Cai Qi's major economic initiatives seemed to consistently treat Shanghai as a latent rival. In 2019, Cai Qi led a Beijing party and government delegation to Shanghai for inspection and exchanges, where they received a warm reception from Li Qiang. At that time, Shanghai had a stock exchange, dual airports, Disneyland, and Tesla, things Beijing lacked. But soon enough, Beijing acquired all of them as well. In November 2021, through joint efforts by the Beijing municipal government and the China Securities Regulatory Commission, the Beijing Stock Exchange officially opened. Cai Qi and then CSRC chairman Yi Human attended the unveiling ceremony. As a fellow Zhejiang native, Yi Human made major contributions to the establishment of the Beijing Stock Exchange. However, this goodwill did not translate into a safe landing for him. In 2024, Cai Qi personally presided over a central secretariat meeting that approved an investigation into Yi Huimin. Xi Jinping had always placed great importance on Beijing's new airport, seeing it as another new engine for national development. As early as 2010, Beijing had established a command office for the construction of the new airport, but progress was slow and dragged on for years. After Cai Qi took charge of Beijing, work accelerated significantly. In less than 3 years, most of the remaining construction was completed, creating a major miracle in the history of global engineering construction, while, of course, leaving behind many historical problems and controversies. On the 25th of September 2019, Xi Jinping personally attended the inauguration ceremony of Daxing International Airport. This inspection further reinforced Cai Qi's image in Xi Jinping's mind as a relentless workhorse. From then on, Beijing, like Shanghai, had 2 international airports. When Shanghai Disneyland opened in 2016, all sectors in Beijing were extremely envious. The Beijing Universal Studios project had applied for approval as early as 2001. From planning and design onward, Universal Studios went through numerous trials. The construction team was not only massive, but also a complex integration of Chinese and foreign parties, facing enormous challenges in communication, construction, and management. Cai Qi conducted multiple on-site inspections and personally presided over many coordination meetings. Finally, in September 20, the opening ceremony of Beijing Universal Resort was held. This ill-fated project encountered repeated waves of the pandemic immediately upon opening, and it was only through Cai Qi's personal coordination that it managed to stay open. It can be said that without Cai Qi, no one knows in which year Universal Studios would have finally opened. It is widely known that one of Li Qiang's major political achievements in Shanghai was facilitating the establishment of Tesla's Gigafactory. Cai Qi's ties to the automotive industry actually predated Li Qiang's. As early as 2004, when Cai Qi served as party secretary of Taizhou, he encountered Li Shufu of Geely Automobile. Later, Geely's rapid development and relocation to Hangzhou were inseparable from Cai Qi's support. Cai Qi deeply understood the driving effect of the automotive industry on the economy. Thus, as soon as he arrived in Beijing, he designated BAIC Group as his grassroots party-building contact point and enterprise service contact point. At the time, BAIC New Energy was still at its peak, topping domestic pure electric vehicle sales for many consecutive years. In particular, in 2017, BAIC New Energy's sales volume even surpassed Tesla's. However, the good days did not last long. Using an old map to search for a new world, BAIC Group quickly ran into trouble. Initially, Cai Qi hoped to broker Li Shufu into taking a stake in or even acquiring BAIC in order to activate this massive state-owned behemoth. Multiple automotive media outlets at the time reported that Geely had set its next acquisition target on BAIC Group, with some even publishing reports about negotiations over equity acquisition. However, this rumoured affair ultimately fizzled out without result. BAIC New Energy then entered years of massive losses, and the entire BAIC Group declined from prosperity into decay. Cai Qi realised that relying on these local state-owned automakers would make it extremely difficult to catch the wave of the new energy vehicle industry. After missing out on the future of automobiles, Beijing had very few options left. At just that moment, Xiaomi announced its entry into automobile manufacturing. Cities such as Hefei, Wuhan, and Shanghai all extended olive branches to Xiaomi. Hefei was the most formidable venture capital city with a complete automotive industry chain and a successful precedent in future automobiles. Hubei was Lei Jun's hometown. Wuhan was the location of his alma mater and had long-standing cooperative ties with him, along with Dongfeng Motors' industrial chain and cost advantages. Shanghai, too, possessed many advantages that Beijing lacked. After a period of intense tug-of-war, Lei Jun ultimately decided to bring Xiaomi Auto back to his hometown, Wuhan. However, after hearing of this, Cai Qi met with Lei Jun and offered conditions that Lei could not refuse. First, he helped Xiaomi Auto secure an independent automobile manufacturing qualification, by far the most difficult and scarce resource, and Beijing ultimately succeeded in doing so. Second, Beijing provided Xiaomi with more than 1,000 acres of land at low cost in Yizhuang, which itself constituted enormous wealth, while also offering maximum support in site selection, factory construction, environmental approvals, and production. Third, an autonomous driving test zone was established, with Xiaomi given priority access. Fourth, Cai Qi coordinated with ICBC and ABC to provide loans to Xiaomi, and even used fiscal subsidies to greatly reduce Xiaomi's financial pressure. Beijing also provided Xiaomi Auto with countless other conveniences, paving the road completely flat for its development. It can be said that without the Beijing municipal government, Xiaomi Auto would never have emerged out of nowhere. At Xiaomi Auto's launch event, Li Jun once said that it was Beijing's fertile soil that nurtured Xiaomi Auto. This was not empty rhetoric. Just as Li Qiang brought in Tesla, Cai Qi gave birth to Xiaomi Auto. Because of this, Li Jun earned Cai Qi's recognition, and the two completed a classic alliance between politics and business. From that point on, Cai Qi became Li Jun's most important backer. After Cai Qi became the CCP's Secretary General, Lei Jun gained the support of the entire CCP propaganda and United Front systems, both of which were under Cai Qi's top leadership. After the collapses of Jack Ma and Liu Qiangdong, the CCP urgently needed a new generation of exemplary entrepreneurs. With Cai Qi's backing, Lei Jun, an emotionally intelligent, scandal-free internet labour model, became the representative of a new generation of private entrepreneurs. He became a frequent guest at meetings with central leaders and a nationwide idol relentlessly promoted by CCP propaganda. Tools. Even after incidents of Xiaomi Auto self-ignition, the propaganda machinery continued to help Xiaomi handle the aftermath, with Cai Qi as a shield behind him. Was that not enough reason for Xiaomi to be smug? When people talk about Cai Qi's flattery toward Xi Jinping, many immediately think of his nauseating rhetoric. Cai Qi once said, "The General Secretary's extraordinary strategic genius, far-sighted vision and leadership charisma have deeply inspired us and provided us with the golden key to solving all kinds of problems. As long as the General Secretary sets the direction and guides us forward, we will have boundless confidence and inexhaustible strength and we will be invincible. However, this was only the most superficial of Cai-style flattery techniques, because rhetoric that stays at the verbal level has a very low threshold. Anyone can learn it, and competition is fierce. For example, at the time, Tianjin Party Secretary Li Hongzong and Guangxi Party Secretary Liu Ning also uttered similarly face-reddening remarks. Rather than engage in homogenized competition in a flattery contest, Cai Qi chose to elevate the game by attacking Xi Jinping's enemies, attacking behaviours the leader disliked, and demonstrating loyalty through action. Chinese officialdom has traditionally emphasized harmony and avoiding direct conflict. But in order to show loyalty to Chairman Xi, Secretary Cai did not hesitate to offend Wang Qishan, who was still at the height of his power at the time, offend CCP No.2 Li Keqiang, and even offend the entire Beijing civil service. This pledge of loyalty, carried out through concrete action, was a vote of allegiance that few could surpass. At the time, China's business world had a rare outspoken figure named Ren Ziqiang, nicknamed Ren the Cannon. He frequently publicly criticised social realities and directly pointed out the CCP's various errors. For example, in 2016, he posted on Weibo criticising the idea that party media must bear the party's surname. When all media acquire surnames and no longer represent the people's interests, the people are abandoned into forgotten corners. However, because Wang Qishan had been Ren Ziqiang's middle school tutor and had long protected him, many officials dared not touch Ren the Cannon, fearing the powerful figures behind him. In early 2020, out of dissatisfaction with Xi Jinping's pandemic response policies, Ren Ziqiang angrily insinuated that Xi Jinping was a clown who insisted on being emperor even after stripping naked. Cai Qi could no longer tolerate this. How dare this man mock the great leader? Who cares? Who stands behind him? Thus, under Cai Qi's personal instruction, the Xishang District Discipline Inspection Commission arrested Ren Ziqiang. To force Ren to confess, his son was also detained. That September, the 8-year-old Ren Ziqiang was sentenced to 18 years in prison for a single sentence. On the altar Cai Qi erected for Xi Jinping, Ren Ziqiang became a living sacrificial offering. In early 2020, in order to ease the unemployment wave caused by the China-US trade war and the zero-COVID policy, then Premier Li Keqiang specifically proposed the street stall economy. The General Office of the State Council also issued special regulations requiring local governments to support flexible employment through multiple channels, reasonably set management models for vendors without fixed business locations, and reserve free markets and stall clusters. Many provinces and cities began loosening controls on mobile vendors, supporting the return of street stalls to urban life. What shocked people was that on June 7 of that year, the Beijing Daily published an editorial stating that the street stall economy was not suitable for Beijing. Beijing's urban management authorities also stated they would strictly crack down on road occupation and street vending in accordance with the law, with Beijing taking the lead. Central media, such as People's Daily, and major cities like Shanghai also jumped out to oppose the street stall economy. Before the street stall economy could even land, it was already pronounced dead. The dignity of a great nation's premier was torn to shreds. For many years, Xi Jinping had harboured a long-cherished wish to relocate Beijing's municipal government organs to the sub-centre in Tongzhou, leaving the 8 central districts as the central administrative zone. Since 2014, he had been pushing Beijing to complete this task. However, Beijing's civil servants strongly resisted because relocating meant commuting across the entire city every day, no less burdensome than cross-city work, and Tongzhou's supporting facilities were poorly developed. The then Beijing Party Secretary Guo Jinlong and Mayor Wang Anshun also did not want to offend the entire civil service system or leave behind a bad reputation, so they kept dragging their feet. After Cai Qi took office, he immediately made relocation his No.1 project. In less than 3 years, Beijing completed the first phase of relocation for 35 municipal departments and 165 units, with 12,000 staff from organs under the 4 major leadership bodies moving into offices at the city subcentre. In order to fulfill Xi Jinping's instructions, Secretary Cai did not hesitate to offend the entire Beijing municipal civil service, nor to endure their private curses. What kind of spirit was this? During his years in Beijing, Cai Qi effectively formed an alliance with Chen Shi and Ding Shuxiang. Chen Qi controlled personnel power through the Central Organization Department. Ding Xuexiang controlled the General Office of the Central Committee, the nerve center of the party. Cai Qi controlled Beijing, the capital itself. Each of the three held irreplaceable top-tier resources. With Ding Xuexiang's assistance, Xi Jinping was arranged to inspect and guide work in Beijing more than a dozen times. All progress in Beijing was reported to Xi Jinping at the earliest possible moment. With Chen Qi's support, Cai Qi could arrange Beijing's personnel entirely according to his own intentions, using promotion as bait to motivate younger cadres. Meanwhile, Cai Qi's control of Beijing could also provide Chen Qi and Ding Xuexiang with various guarantees and conveniences. During Cai Qi's 5-year tenure in Beijing, he presided over the largest urban reconstruction in the city's history. The Beijing city subcenter alone involved hundreds of major projects. Add to that mega projects such as Daxing International Airport and the Beijing Winter Olympics, and the total construction funds under his control amounted to not just hundreds of billions, but likely close to or exceeding 1 trillion yuan. These were all bargaining chips firmly in his hands, resources he could exchange with other powerful families and political elites. Chinese politics is often built upon compromises and deals based on interest exchange. When the cake in your hands is large and distributed skillfully, you will have plenty of supporters. Regarding predictions for the 20th Party Congress personnel lineup, the other 6 potential standing committee candidates were largely irrelevant. The real debate centered on the final slot, Cai Qi or Huang Kunming, both with Xi Jinping's direct proteges, with highly similar resumes. Huang Kunming had even long been ahead of Cai Qi in his career trajectory. Thus, many believed Huang Kunming was the more likely choice for the Politburo Standing Committee. Yet the final outcome shocked many observers. Cai Qi emerged as the dark horse of the 20th Party Congress. Not only that, he was placed in charge of the daily work of the Central Secretariat and concurrently appointed Director of the General Office of the Central Committee, becoming the CCP's second-in-command beneath Xi Jinping, the de facto vice chairman. Chen Jining, jointly recommended by Cai Qi and Chen Ji, also became Shanghai Party Secretary. Yin Yong, a quasi-post-70 seconds official, succeeded as mayor of Beijing. Why did Xi Jinping choose Cai Qi rather than Huang Kunming? When personal closeness was roughly equal, Xi Jinping turned to capability. In Xi Jinping's view, Cai Qi had completed critical tasks over these years, curing Beijing's urban maladies, dispersing non-capital functions, and hosting the Winter Olympics, proving his governing ability. Moreover, Cai Qi's relentless work ethic perfectly matched Xi Jinping's preferences and the demands of the Central Secretary-General position. If predictions hold, Cai Qi will become the chief operator of personnel arrangements for the 21st Party Congress. As a reward, he will also assume the post of Vice President of the state, extending his political influence into the next term. All right, this concludes today's story. Thank you all.